Hello. Welcome to this week's Astral Weather Report from the Light Army. I'm Jeremy Eugene Wilson, and every 6 days I come on here to share with you the modern astrological shifts. The sun, the earth move into new human design gates, current astrological alignments, so you can understand what you're feeling underneath the hood, so that it brings in some fresh themes and challenges for all of us. And my job is just to break it down in layman's terms so you can work with the energy, so it creates less resistance, less conflict for you in your life, and ultimately leverage it in your business, your relationships, and your personal growth. I know some of you are feeling a little energetically hung over from last week's full moon and the Lionsgate portal. And if you've been feeling some waves of uncertainty or some sudden emotional spikes or second guessing decisions in some capacity, this week's shift explains it. So let's dive in. This week's theme is emotional intelligence in the face of uncertainty. The invitation is to master your inner climate, your inner landscape, your inner world before reacting to the outer one. So this week you may be tested in some moments where fear, confusion, or high emotion could lead you to overreact, leave some scorched earth, or just shut down entirely, right? So be aware of that fight, flight, freeze. The edge this week is really from finding your center. And as cheesy and crunchy as that might sound, like holding on to it no matter what's swirling around you, being the calm in the storm. A lot of the storm is unseen, but you will be presented with challenges. You'll notice people in traffic. You'll definitely notice that the landscape has some turmoil in it. It's a great opportunity to exercise your emotional intelligence. And can you feel everything going on without letting it control your next move or change of perception, remove your faith? Don't live from that fear. Now for the mental and emotional forecast. Here's the vibe check for the week. You might feel torn between staying the course or pivoting, right? When we start out on a path and we don't see results right away, we start questioning whether it's working, doubting the path we're on. Unless you see that L-curve growth, sometimes you can steer off course. This comes down to the law of 212 degrees. Water does not boil unless we hit 212 degrees. So you can put the pot on the stove, and if it's not boiling, you don't see steam, you're like, what's the point in putting this energy into this? If you keep taking the pot on and off the stove, changing your goals, changing your direction, you'll never get that forward momentum. You'll never see the result you're looking for. So that's really the thing this week, whether it's other people's emotions, feeling a little louder than usual, especially in close relationships or team environments. Definitely stay the course. Decision fatigue is real. Don't force clarity before it's ready. This is a week for emotional aikido, right? Redirecting intensity instead of absorbing it. So just remember, ultimately, there's some rawness out there. You're going to be questioning things, doubting things a little more than you might expect in your mind and inside your groups and your teams. People might be in a state of a little bit of chaos. As I mentioned before, be the calm in the storm. Be the flagpole when the wind blows, not the flag. This Monday, the 11th, the sun moves into gate 4. Some call this the gate of answers. It's all about formalization. This is the let me make sense of this energy. The mind wants an answer. It wants a formula to solve whatever emotional attention you're feeling, right? We're the apex predator on this planet because when discomfort shows up, our mind wants to figure out how to never feel that feeling ever again. The mind is really great at spotting patterns, but here's the trap. You cannot out-logic a feeling, right? The heart knows a greater truth than the head does. The mind is a formulaic machine and also a meaning-making machine. So the gene key theme is forgiveness. It's moving from away from intolerance and into a state of understanding. So when your brain starts running in circles around the racetrack, try this. Just feel first, give yourself permission to feel, maybe do some breath work, do what it takes to get in your body, clap your hands, get your nerves tingling, do some breath work, do some push-ups. Then think. Let your heart give the data to your mind and let your mind organize it. But you do not need an answer right now. You do not have to arrive at a final decision. This next 6 days, your mind will grasp at straws and look at every piece of evidence to make meaning out of it. But ultimately, biggest thing you could do with the sun in gate 4 is to practice feeling. Give yourself permission to feel. Look at the emotional frequency scale, Hawkins' map of consciousness. Recognize where you're projecting, where your process from each state of consciousness is coming from, watch where your mind wants to run, and be present with those feelings. That's the number one thing you can do. This week, the Earth moves into gate 49. This is the gate of principles. This grounds us in values. Principles are the behaviors, the metrics, the standards that allow us to enforce our values. It's one of my favorite gates in the entire chart. I like to say when we align in values, we almost always align in vision. When we align in vision, we almost always align in mission, and it's easy for us to set a standard acute goal, individual goals, and then set tasks and count on each other to achieve big things. However, this is the energy that decides what we stand for, what our standards are, what we won't stand for, what we won't tolerate. And it can move us toward partnership or away from it. Some people call it the divorce gate. So that's the shadow to pay attention to. You don't need to cut people off or stop your plans too fast just to escape discomfort. There's no need to leave scorched earth or burn bridges. So the biggest power move, get clear on your values. Maybe you're setting new standards, new principles. Breathe and then choose. How can we create the outcome we want? Be diplomatic, be deliberate, find clarity, and then seek to find out if there's some mutual alignment, right? What I desire is. One of the greatest plagues of the human mind is focusing on what we don't want. So one of the greatest things you can do is to focus on what you want. Another word for want and desire is value. The mind always wants comfort. So its first reaction, knee-jerk reaction, is to avoid discomfort. The body just wants to feel. So if something's getting us caught in a loop of thinking, we want to escape. We want coping mechanisms to activate our senses. So oftentimes people will sit in front of TV, they'll scroll their phone, they'll eat some food, they'll activate as many senses simultaneously as possible. But the soul wants growth. So if you want to grow, you have to find out what your core desire, what your core value is, that thing you value the most, and then reverse engineer. What are the habits, the behaviors, the agreed mutual agreements, right? The standards of behavior to achieve that. That's where this becomes a powerful energy this week. Some other key astrological alignments this week. Obviously, we just came off a full moon. The moon is moving from Capricorn to Aquarius, and this ties sequential order to innovation, right? Cosmically, the sequence matters this week. You want to let your feelings inform the mind, allow that to be your first truth, and then plan second, right? We make decisions emotionally and we justify them logically. So don't let logic lead the way. Allow yourself to process all your emotions this week. It might sound like some woo-woo, soft stuff to say, but at the end of the day, we feel all sorts of things. And if you ultimately make a decision from that emotional place, it might not be the most emotionally intelligent decision that serves the whole or allows you to achieve your goals in the short term and the long term. So ultimately, just keep things in a priority sequence. Mars square Saturn. That's really about outer action meeting internal and external resistance. You're going to find some battles and some fights and some wars, and the number one way to win a tug of war is to let go of the rope. So definitely don't shy away from conflict. Make sure you're seeking out and learning some new conflict resolve strategies. One of my favorites is CPR, right? Read the receipt of trust and respect you have in a relationship. Obviously, we have trust and respect. I value your perspective. I understand how you're feeling. C, conflict, content, circumstance. Identify it, label it. Hey, the circumstance seems like the biggest conflict is active listen to confirm, right? P, I would like this problem to no longer be a pattern. I'd like to prevent it. Pre-frame your desire. What do you want? What I want for me, what I want for you is, and ultimately R, resolution, resolve, result. This is what I'm seeking. And then most importantly, what can we do together to resolve that? Make sure that when resistance shows up, that you're using, conscious emotional intelligence and some conflict resolve strategies to avoid leaving scorched earth. And then Virgo influence, right? There's this urge to refine and get things right. It's a great opportunity to edit, make changes, simplify things, whether that's your schedule, your plan, your presentations, and your business, whatever it may be. This is a great week. Instead of innovation, just think of simplification. How do you refine? How do you get things right? Edit before you announce or present something to the world. All right, so here's how to align and leverage this energy this week. It's all about patient presence. Be with your emotions and senses, right? Can you be with your emotions without wanting to escape them, sedate them, or numb them in some capacity, right? Most of us have developed some pretty big heart walls and some pretty big cognitive dissonance and cognitive biases will confirm, confirmation bias as well, will confirm that which we look for. So this week, truly, it's all about patient presence. Be with your emotions and senses before you move, before you act, before you make decisions. Definitely avoid any rush decisions this week, right? You definitely want to arrive at a state of emotional certainty. Don't take on other people's crisis or respond to other people's problems. Everything is not a 3-alarm fire. A lot of times what is presented as a crisis is not even really a problem. It's just a set of tasks. And if we show up from that standpoint, well, you're not feeling a bunch of cortisol. You sleep well at night and you have a lot more joy in your life. So definitely don't get into circular debates that go nowhere. And ultimately leverage this energy by pausing between feeling and action. Really state your values before choosing. Get clear on what you want, what you don't want, what you want for others, what you want for the whole, and allow people just have their truth. Even if their truth is a set of emotions, you can't take someone's emotion from them. You don't have to defend yours. So this week, definitely, I like to say, let go of the tug of war rope. Don't engage. Say, hey, let me process that. Let me get back to you. Hey, this sounds like something that seems like a crisis or a problem. I definitely want to solve this. Give me some time to process and come up with the best solution. Be as non-reactive as possible. Emotional intelligence, exercise it. The greatest way to get the most out of this week is to really start exercising the habits of shifting your state. Tony Robbins calls it priming. Albert Einstein says you can't solve a problem from the same state of being that it was created from, and that's what this is about. Shift your emotional state, shift your state of consciousness before you speak, before you act. Allow there to be a pause. Create a little pause protocol, right? A little 4x4 or 4x8 breath. Inhale on a 4 count, hold your breath for 4. Exhale 8 count, slow down that exhale, out through the mouth, hold for 4. In through the nostrils. Do 3 rounds of that. Move your body before big conversations. Do some push-ups, some burpees, go for a short walk. Your eyes and feet point forward on purpose. And ultimately ask in as many interactions where conflict or resistance is present, is this my intentional response or an emotional reaction? The greater the pause, the greater the outcome. So some things to ask yourself this week. Right, just some quick journaling cues to lock it in. Am I choosing speed over integrity? Right? Be in the truth, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you've got to let down your pride a little bit, even if you have to be humbled. It's not about being right or wrong, it's about being whole. What's true in my body, even if it's hard to explain? Even if you own your emotion and you feel it, you might not be able to label it, but it's the truth. And you don't need to explain to others, but what's true in your body. Really be with your emotions. And last but not least, what is your highest desired outcome? The short term, the long term, because ultimately focusing on what you want gets you more of it. If you focus on what you don't want, you're going to get more of that too. So let the focus be the faithful direction of your desires. And just remember, emotional intelligence doesn't mean less feeling. It means clearer choices. Hold your center and then move. That concludes this week's Astral Weather Report. We'll see you here again in 6 days. If you'd like to diagnose where you're leaking the most energy and how to immediately add capacity, go over to lightarmy.com/energetics. We have programmed an AI thought partner with hundreds of hours of training and soul science to help you diagnose using soul astrology and a quick quiz where you're leaking the most energy and how to maximize your energy. Second, this week we will have a Soul Science 101 training. If you'd like to know more about that, reach out to myself, Jeremy Eugene Wilson, Jaramy Eugene Wilson, on Instagram, and we'll get you a link to join. In the meantime, more powerful than you know, infinite love. Shine on. Bye for now.